Hi, thank you for joining the Holy Help Podcast. My name is Aaron. I'll be your host, and today I have exciting news. I have here in my studio with me someone very special to me, my dear mother. Her name is Sophia, and so we're glad you're here.
Glad to be here with you.
So I'm going to do something today a little different than I have, or more than just a monologue of me talking. We're going to have a little bit of a dialogue, and we're going to talk about life experiences that my mother's had, and how she has come from where she was to where she is now, and how the Lord has helped her and brought her down through life. And I'm just privileged to have her here with me today. And so we'll get right into the show. If you haven't subscribed already, please check the website out there at the bottom. You can subscribe and get every episode that we put out. Also, like the Facebook page to stay up there as well. So without further ado, we were going to get started. So let me just ask my mother a few questions here. Mom, growing up, tell us a little bit about your parents and what you remember. I know you don't remember a lot about them, but what do you remember most about your mother and your father?
Well, I don't remember a whole lot about my mother. She passed away when I was between 7 and 8. I just remember a few things about her, just her laugh and stuff, and how sweet she was. Everybody says she's a sweet person. And my dad, he passed away when I was between 15 and 16. And I remember as a young child, I got hurt once, and I remember I was in a lot of pain, and my father knelt down by the bed and prayed with me. We went to church as a young child. We were brought up in Baptist. And then as I got a little older, I became into the Pentecostal holiness. My oldest sister, I moved in with them at the age of 16, and they finished raising me, and I was brought into the holiness that way, and I'm so glad that the Lord saved me.
So when you were just a young girl, you first lost your mother at a young age, and I can't begin to imagine what that's like, because I've had you all of my life. Here I am. I'm getting a middle-aged man here, and I've been privileged to have you. And sometimes we just call and talk back and forth and just enjoy one another's company. And I love being able to talk to you. But so without your mother around, I'm sure that's not been easy through your life. And then losing your father at a young age, you really didn't have hardly anyone. So most of you would not know, but my mother's sister, Joyce, actually she took my mother in, and we actually called her Granny, because she was my aunt, but she was just Granny to us, and her husband Hogan, we call him Hoagie. I called him Hoagie, or we call him Pops. But they took over, so they were just good, godly people. And tell us a little bit about what, and they both went on to be with the Lord, but tell us a little bit about how they were instrumental in your life and bringing you to where you are now.
Well, the first time that I went to church with them, my sister, she said, do you want to pray? And I really didn't understand the faith that they were in, because like I said, I was brought up under a different faith, and she got down and prayed with me. I said, yes, I want to pray. I want the Lord to come into my life. And that kind of got me going into the way that I went, was in, them teaching me and leading me and guiding me in the paths that I needed to go to follow the Lord, and after His leading, and brought Him into my life. And then as the years went, as I got older, I ended up getting married, and I had a son, and then I had my daughter, and I thank God for them. And my son's a great preacher.
So we talked a little bit about Joyce and Hogan being instrumental in your life and bringing you in, and they really, you were going on a bad path before that. You wasn't going down a good road before then, and you kind of, as an orphan, you just kind of a loner going your way. You got into some things and just life. But I'm so thankful that there was somebody that stepped into your life, and they were a godly example, and they talked to you, and I know sometimes you would get a little bit of trouble, and they'd keep you in a straight way and kind of keep you. So we owe a lot to them. We owe a lot to them for bringing all of us where we are. So I'm where I am today. And I was passing through that area down there in Kentucky where Hogan was from, and I just wept going through there the other day, because that man in large part is responsible for me being where I am.
Right.
Because he helped guide you the way that you went. And so we love him and we miss him so much. But it's because of good people in our lives that stepped up and they took the place. It really wasn't their place, but they took that and they stepped into that place, and it's brought us to where we are. And we love the Lord. So you went to church with them, and in going to church with them, you met some young guy somewhere there. And so tell us a little bit about meeting him.
Okay, the young guy he is talking about is my son's father, which is his dad, Jeff Metcalf. And we got married at 19, and then after that's when we started our family. I guess I should have backed up and said that a little bit ago, but I get nervous. But anyways, then we got married, and a few years went by. That's when we had our son. And then a few years later, we had our daughter, well, about 6 years later. And then we raised them in the Holiness Church, and I'm so thankful that we did. And my son has become a great minister for the Lord.
So our whole family, we've I like to say we've cut our teeth kind of on the church pew. And from day one, as soon as they were able to get back to church, my parents brought both my sister and I in the house of God, and in that we have no regrets. We really don't have any regrets. Really, we lived for the house of God. We lived for the things of God, and our family. I have a lot of memories, and I know she's sitting here, but I don't ever remember my mommy having a bad word to say about anyone, and always kind, always loving. And if I ever need anything, my mama was always there, and still yet she's just a phone call away. And I know we live they're actually here with me right now, so we live quite a distance away from each other. So when we get together, we really enjoy that. We have a good time. Sometimes me and her will get to laughing and just we feed off of one another. So we have a good time. But anyway, so we've spent our life in ministry in the house of God, and I know everybody hasn't been privileged to do that. I know we've all come to the Lord at different stages in our life. I mean, now not everybody, and just like my mom, she was raised around church and in church some, but she really didn't have a deep understanding of the things of God until someone really stepped into her life and began to. Wouldn't you say that's how it was?
That's how it went. When they worked with me and talked to me and prayed for me, and the Lord opened my eyes to let me see.
And I look at my mom now, and I can't imagine what she might have been like before the Lord got a hold of her. I can't imagine. She's told us, and I know she wouldn't mind me saying this, but the Lord brought her from a long way, from being a smoker and a tobacco chewer at the same time. I mean, and I just can't imagine it with my mother. Just some things of the flesh that the Lord, the direction she was going, the Lord brought her out of that stuff, and a lot of other things, just the Lord saved her from all of that in the world. And I appreciate so much my godly heritage in that. But like I say, she wasn't necessarily raised in church, but the grace of God brought her and brought our family to where we are. And so I just want to talk to her a little bit about that. So here we are. She's married my father. They had me. They had me in Florida, by the way, so we followed in ministry. My Uncle Hogan, my parents followed down to Florida, and so they had me while they was in Florida. So I'm a Floridian. So I'm one of the few people, from Florida that is actually from Florida. So anyway, now we're in Ohio, but most people in Florida are not from Florida. They're from somewhere else, but I'm actually a Floridian. But anyway, so they had me down there, and then they moved back to Ohio, which I've spent most of my life here in Southern Ohio. And they've moved in ministry, and my sister moved south, and they're down in that area. But mom and dad still work in ministry, and they love people.
Amen.
They're people. And so they've got a heart for people, and we'll probably try to get my dad to interview here one of these days. And he's a great preacher, a great man. And so they developed in us faithfulness. That's one thing. We had a bad drug problem in our family. We were drugged to church on Sunday. We were drugged to church on Wednesday. We were drugged to church on Saturday. I remember one year we went to church, I think almost every night of the year, but about 4 nights I think we were not. So something like 361 nights we were in church. And as a little boy, I'm like, oh, come on, Dad, another night. I don't want to go to church. But what it was a love for church. And not just a church service, but the experience of being in the presence of God, the experience of worshiping. And if anybody knows my family, we love to worship. And I'm a musician. My mother's a musician. My father is a preacher and a singer, and mother sings, and my sister can play music and sing. And so we all are musically inclined. We love to worship, and so we got that. We got that because of the instillment of faithfulness. And still yet, they're faithful to the house of God. If you find them on a Wednesday night, you're going to find them in church. And that has been instilled in me as a quality. I believe in being faithful to the house of God. And so mom and dad, they're now pastoring a church in Kentucky, and they love their people there. So when I was young, and to speak of faithfulness, I remember, and let me just back up a little bit here before I get to that. I want to hold that thought for just a second. But I remember my daddy getting hurt back in the 80s, and he worked a job working on heating and air conditioning, and an accident occurred and really messed his back up, put him out of work for many years. And I remember that, but and here's the point that I was going to get to. I remember Dad being faithful in that he went to church. I remember him going to church and laying on a pew because he wanted to be in the house of God that bad. He had that much of a desire to be in the house of God. I remember watching it as a boy. I never will forget. I was little. I was about 6 years old. And I remember him laying on the pew with pillows just to be in the house of God. He wanted to be there. And
that was on a watch night service too, and those services can hold late.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
We would start early, and we would be there 4 or 5 hours. You know, we would stay and pray the old year out and the new year in, and I'm sure it was a miserable time because he had just come out of surgery and probably really shouldn't have been there, honestly. The doctor probably would have not liked that very well, but they actually had to fuse his spine together, and did a lot, with that surgery. And but the point I was going to make with my mother and interviewing her here is Dad was not able to work, and my mother stepped up and had to then take care of the family. And I remember her working long hours, and she didn't get paid a lot, but she helped. Just her faithfulness and her love and her care for her family kept us going when Dad was at a hard place, and I really appreciate that. And one thing our family has is a good work ethic, and we've always had that. Like I say, my dad was working when he got hurt, and I'm sure he would have kept right on working had that not. He worked sweating in Florida in the heat down there, and working and praying and seeking God and fasting, and we may get into some of that when we talk to him. But I remember one night Mom was so tired, and I want her to tell about that night. If she remembers, we lived there in Morrow, and you was coming home. You was so tired. Tell us that story a little bit.
Well, I had worked one job, and then I had come home for a little bit. Then I went to my night job. I was working evenings too. I did like a part-time evening job. And I was so tired when I was coming home, I had took the wrong road, and I went way down this country road, and I thought, oh no, where am I? It's just like something said, you're going